Welcome to this course on Professional English Speaking by Great Learning. This tutorial is designed for freshers who bring a lot of new talent to the industry, but often aren't quite well equipped to communicate with their peers, their managers, or their other colleagues in general in English. This tutorial will give you an in-depth understanding of what good communication practices are and how you can master them. At the end of this tutorial, you will be able to confidently convey your message and connect with your audience in a professional manner. The contents of this tutorial are: what is professional communication, types of professional communication, improving your professional vocabulary, and speaking and presenting during interviews and meetings. So let's get started. What is professional communication? Let us look at the principles of professional communication. Professional communication refers to various forms of speaking, listening, writing, and responding that is carried out both in and beyond the workplace, whether in person or electronically, but it is always in a professional context. From meetings and presentations to memos and emails, to even marketing materials and annual reports. In business communication, it is essential to take professional, formal, and civil tones to make the best impression on your audience, whether they're your colleagues, supervisors, or your customers. I think it has been best put by author Anne Einsberg when she says, "What is good communication? Rather, what is good professional communication? It is writing or speaking that is accurate, complete, and understandable to its audience, that tells the truth about the data directly and clearly. Doing this takes research, analysis of the audience, and the mastering of the three interrelated elements of organization, language, design, and illustration." Professional communication is a little different from personal communication that you would have with your friends or family, because in professional communication, most of the times you do not know your audience that well personally, and you need to be a little extra cautious about your manners, your body language, and the words you choose to speak. For example, it is ideal that you do not use colloquial language or slangs while communicating with your team, because they might belong from different cultures and have different backgrounds, and not all the colloquial references might make sense to them. Now, taking a look into the principles of professional communication. Professional communication, in contrast to general communication, is often guided by professional ethics, though they are both managed by way of the same standards and share many common capabilities. In general communication, we have two or more individuals, but in professional communication, one of the members you have to keep in mind is a representative of the organization. Professional ethics demand that you be courteous and all your communications should be around your work. We can now talk about the tone of your speech. In professional communication, it is important that you have a formal tone of speech, because your tone of speech is equally important. Creating the perfect ambience for business presentation requires examining the content of the speech and the speaker's delivery technique, as well as looking at the clothing worn by the speaker during the presentation. You must attract your audience's interest and focus on how your listener is receiving what you're telling him or her. The overall tone of the speech should be driven by work-related topics. Refrain from making any kind of personal remarks. Having said that, you should also be very warm and cordial towards your audience. Be open-minded while having a conversation or a meeting with your colleagues. Your tone should not be aggressive or intimidating. You should be easy to talk to so that when your peers or supervisors need to, they can communicate the required message quite easily with you. An important part of good communication is active listening. While engaging in a conversation, always listen keenly when your audience says something. Never interrupt, and even if you do so, apologize immediately and let them continue with their speech. Also, try not to think of what your response will be when you're listening. Focus on what they're attempting to say. Lastly, and most importantly, always speak appropriately. Don't make presumptions based on the gender, race, or culture of your audience and stereotype them. Refrain from suggesting anything that might be tainted by political colors or is gender specific. The idea here is to get the work done. The idea here is to get your work related message conveyed without upsetting or offending your audience. Speak in such a way that it makes your audience feel comfortable listening to you. Why is professional communication important? Good communication plays an essential role in your success in your workplace. Knowing how to communicate effectively with those around you will lead to better productivity and improved relationships in your workspace. Effective communication involves knowing how to listen attentively. It is the ability to offer empathy, open-mindedness, and helpful feedback based on what you hear. Also, a friendly demeanor, confidence, and quality non-verbal communication will help in developing good relationships with the members of your team. Now let's explore some of the benefits of effective communication in and outside your workspace. Firstly, it helps you align yourself better with your work environment. Effective communication will put you in sync with your work environment and align your goals with the company goals. Secondly, it can help avoid misunderstandings with poor communication. It is easy for messages to get misunderstood. By mastering professional communication, the potential for misunderstandings can be minimized to a large extent. With effective communication, you can also build strong and positive relationships with your team. It will help you work effectively in a group. When you work in a team, you need to be able to regularly communicate with others. You need to listen to people's ideas while being able to clearly and effectively communicate your own. Good communication can also help to build a positive working relationship so your team works more effectively and productively together. Your ability to listen attentively and embrace different points of views help others trust that you're making the optimal decision for everyone in the group and become a role model. This trust will extend to your team and they will feel as though they can trust their teammates to fulfill their duties and responsibilities. Effective communication also helps you address and overcome roadblocks. The ability to communicate effectively plays a large role in resolving conflicts and preventing potential ones from arising. The key is to remain calm, make sure all parties are heard, and find a solution that is ideal for everyone involved. With effective communication skills, you're able to deliver clear expectations and objectives for your team. This involves finding constructive ways of pointing out when something isn't working and then providing helpful feedback to get people back on track. They will understand their specific tasks and responsibilities as well as those of their teammates and help in eliminating conflicts. It is only with improved communication that team members will be better able to rely on each other. In this module, we will cover the different types of professional communication. Broadly speaking, professional communication can be divided into two categories: spoken and written. Effective professional verbal communication includes the ability to speak fluently, to be succinct yet thorough, to exude confidence, and to communicate in a manner appropriate for the occasion. The style of verbal communication used at a board meeting is different from the style of verbal communication that is appropriate for a working lunch, or when you're working as a customer service representative, or running into a colleague at an out-of-office event. An essential component of effective verbal communication is the ability to listen to comments from those you are communicating and to observe their reactions. Verbal communication is categorized into interpersonal communication and public speaking. The other form of communication is written communication. Professionals who excel at written communication understand how to use language to get their message across. They are efficient at utilizing all forms of grammar and punctuation to add in-depth meaning to their writing. There are a variety of types of written communication that includes letters, memos, project plans, policies, procedures, articles for general audience, technical scientific reports, studies and articles, so on and so forth. Now, each of these types of professional written communication require different technical literary skills. Now, we will quickly go through the difference between spoken and written communication. Spoken communication needs you to be more present and demands your immediate response, while written communication doesn't demand that you engage all your sensory facilities in the same way like you would during a verbal communication, and written communication takes longer to get delivered and then extract a response. Spoken communication is more effective for scenarios which require immediate response, while written communication is more effective for scenarios which require follow-ups over a period of time. Spoken communication is not the preferred mode of documenting communication. You will not see professionals carrying recorders to meetings and one-on-one conversations, unless they're journalists, of course. While written communication, on the other hand, is the standard way of documenting communication, and that is also the reason that you should be extra careful while sending someone a mail, because it will become a point of reference for them in the future. Spoken communication has a human touch to it. You can say a lot from a person's non-verbal disposition, while written communication can be a little impersonal, and sometimes it is also a little vague if the context is not clearly stated. It is easier to convey the message when you're speaking verbally to your audience, because a lot of your non-verbal agents of communication also come into play. But while you're engaging with your audience in a written communication, there is always the risk of misunderstanding, because written language has its own set of limitations. In spoken communication, body language plays an active role, while written communication relies only on written language, and you need to choose your words very carefully in that case. Now we'll look at the rules of verbal communication. Verbal communication is all about the words you choose to speak and how those words are received and interpreted. Your gestures and overall body language adds to it, impacting the interpretation. Now let's look at some of the best practices of verbal communication. It is important that you have an open mind when you are preparing to engage with your audience. Open-mindedness is one of the most sought after employee traits, according to the University of California. Being open-minded means you have a willingness to listen to other ideas and opinions and consider the possibility that you're wrong or may change your own perspective in the future. This can be an important quality in the workplace. Supervisors want to know that you have a willingness to learn new things and consider alternative approaches to problem solving. In an interview, showing you're open-minded instills confidence in the hiring manager that you're teachable and coachable. Someone who projects a know-it-all attitude is often a turn-off. Also, the hiring manager wants to know that you have a cooperative attitude and you listen well to others when they share their opinion. Verbal communication also focuses on the context. Context is also known as the condition of an environment. Your context will help you evaluate the information you share with your audience. The success of your communication depends on how well you understand the context of the communication and then how well you make it clear for your audience. Another important factor of verbal communication is that you stay clear of distractions. We react emotionally to certain words, concepts, and ideas, and to a myriad of other cues from speakers, whether it is their appearance or nonverbal cues such as gestures. Make a conscious effort to quiet your own emotional reactions so that you can listen properly. Audible noise may be extremely distracting. Some things can be minimized, like you can turn down the ringer on your phone and notifications on your phone or computer while you're meeting with someone. Other noises may be unavoidable, like construction, other people. Also, there may be a figurative noise from the external environment, such as distracting or inappropriate decor in a room, or environmental conditions, such as the room being too hot or too cold. Now we come to one of the most important elements of verbal communication. Avoid forming arguments in your mind while listening. When we spend our listening time formulating our next response, we cannot be fully attentive to what the speaker is saying. Do not be distracted by critical evaluations of the speaker. Focus on what they are trying to say, the message, rather than the messenger. And then we are left with the most important rule of verbal communication. Do not stereotype the speaker. Be empathetic. Imagine how you would feel in their circumstance. Be empathetic to the feelings of the speaker while maintaining a calm center within yourself. You need not be drawn into all of their problems or issues as long as you acknowledge what they are experiencing. To sum it up, speak clearly and do not mumble. Make the audience understand your voice at the very first go so that you do not have to repeat yourself. Pronounce the words clearly. Know the actual pronunciation of the words. Apply the right words while speaking and use words that are familiar. And slow down your speech whenever it is necessary. Now let's talk about written communication. Written communication in a business context needs to be carefully crafted to avoid miscommunication. It should be clear and on point so that the recipients can refer back to it whenever required. Now let's look at some of the rules of written communication. It needs to be concise. At the heart of business is the idea that time is money. This may lead you to believe that shorter messages are always better. However, concise writing is not just fast or short. Sometimes your writing must balance the clarity of the message with efficiency. With business writing, the main focus is on the reader's ability to quickly absorb and react to the communication. Concise business writing uses clean, straightforward sentences to improve the understanding and retention. This is different from the prose of novels or the beats of poetry in which taking pleasure in the complexity of sentences is part of the experience. Business writing uses simpler sentences to be more concise and thus less likely to be misinterpreted. Be careful not to string together too many ideas in the same sentence. Written communication should also be polite in tone. Tone is the style or the manner of expression in any writing. Tone conveys the attitude associated with the content. Just as any person who is speaking can modify the meaning of words through inflection and non-verbal cues, writing can also convey different meanings based on the way words are chosen and combined. Business writing must have the proper tone to ensure it is effective. If the tone leaves the content unclear, confusing, or in the worst case offensive, the reader won't be able to properly absorb or react to the information. Confidence is appealing. Companies want to do deals with people who are confident in their business, in their product and themselves. So business documents should be confident and inclusive. Speaking for and within a company demands that the writer shows respect to the reader. And it is also important that you stay neutral. Specifically avoid gendered pronouns. Using gendered pronouns can show inadvertent biases and can be read as discriminatory by the audience. Use gender-neutral terms to avoid these issues. People are often motivated and attracted to a positive take. Positive output or benefits are appealing to the reader. So try to make your written communication more positive. It is also important that your written communication is syntactically correct. You want to make sure that you come across as the business professional that you are. You want to give your readers a very good first impression. Not only do you want to get their attention, but you also want to earn their respect. Good spelling, correct grammar, and appropriate use of punctuation will give them more confidence in the person who is communicating with them. Incorrect spelling or a lack of punctuation may create confusion. Your audience will be left guessing what you're trying to say. Spelling errors and grammatical mistakes may also change the meaning of your message, which might result in misinformation. Some readers may get back to you for clarity, others might not, which in the case of new prospects is something that you want to avoid. You do not want poor grammar to cost you business opportunities. Also, whenever possible, use simple language. Using plain and clear language helps your audience read, understand, and use the information you're giving them. Choose a simple word or phrase over complex one. Writing in short, simple words doesn't mean that you're dumbing down the message. It just means that you're communicating your important and complex ideas as clearly and effectively as possible. The principles of plain language include structuring your message logically, using headings, subheadings, lists, and tables to help readers navigate through your material. Writing short, uncomplicated sentences and leaving out anything that isn't necessary for your message. Choosing common, everyday words rather than jargons or technical terms. Only using acronyms when absolutely necessary and always defining them the first time they appear. And use white space and typography that is easy to read. Another very important aspect of written communication is using active voice. Active voice helps the reader get into the story and it directly engages with the reader. Active language and phrases are easier to read than passive verbiage, especially for those whose first language is not English. All content is created with the purpose of calling the reader to action, either by doing business with your company or sharing your content. Using action verbs and active language makes your writing persuasive and engaging. When you write in a passive voice, your content becomes drawn out and less exciting to read. Your content is meant to provide information in a way that is quick and easy to digest. Consistently using passive language can cause your information to sound more academic, sometimes to the point of alienating the readers. So it is important that you keep using active voice whenever you find an opportunity. Clarity of purpose. One of the main elements of effective communication is clarity. Your persuasiveness and accuracy cannot help you in achieving your target if your audience is struggling to understand the message you're trying to convey. Make sure that your information is organized in a way that allows your audience to progress smoothly from point A to point B and then on to point C. And in the end, always proofread. I cannot stress enough the importance of proofreading. There is no alternative to a clean, error-free content piece when it comes to creating a good impression. Now let's talk about the etiquettes that you must maintain while you're speaking over the phone. Before the actual call, sit down and prepare for it. And during the call, speak clearly and be succinct. Be more mindful while you're listening so that the message you're receiving is not misinterpreted. Take down notes if required. And do not hesitate to ask for clarification if you need it. Always take into account the lack of non-verbal gestures while you're speaking over the phone. So put your 100% attention while you're speaking and listening to your audience while doing it over the phone. Now we'll get down to the essentials of how to draft emails. The key to a good email is an effective subject line. So start by writing an effective subject line that is precise and conveys the entire message of your email. Keep your email clean. Keep it short and get to the point. If you're trying to explain something, put it in simple language, and if it is possible, jot it down into bullet points. Be very careful with confidential information and who you're sharing that information with. Copy your team members only when required on a need-to-know basis. And never angry email. Even if you have to write it down, draft your email and come back to it after some time. Read it again before hitting the send button. And before you send the email, always question if it is a message that can be delivered in person. There is nothing that can replace in-person conversations. So you should always choose conversations over emails whenever it is possible. Now let us improve our professional vocabulary. In order to improve your professional vocabulary, it is very important that you understand your company's culture. Every company has a set of principles and values that they believe in, that they uphold through the work that they do, in the way in which they engage with their employees, and the culture that they build internally. So in order to understand that culture, read up about the company that you are currently working with or you want to work with in the future. Be observant of the various employee engagement activities that happens from time to time within the company. Pay attention to your managers and the language that they speak, the culture that they're trying to build internally in the team. And also try to volunteer for employee engagement activities. Contribute towards your workspace that is not just limited to the work that you're doing, but also extends to the kind of culture and relationship that your company is trying to build in the organization. Professional jargons are a very important part of your professional vocabulary. These jargons refer to a set of specialized terms that are relevant and used frequently in a professional environment. While these words and terms are not widely used in general communication, they make professional communication easier and more effective because they have specific meaning in their context. While professional jargons might make communication easier in a corporate environment, it can often also create obscurity for freshers in the industry. Learning these terms and breaking them down will help you feel more included in your work culture. So let us look at some of the most commonly used professional jargons. Agile. Agile denotes to a method of project management used especially for software development that is characterized by the division of tasks into short phases of work and frequent reassessment and adaptation of plans. Actionable. Actionable refers to a piece of information that helps you in taking an action in the right direction. All hands. An all hands meeting brings the entire organization together to share updates, ask questions, and to get to know senior leadership better. Unlike team or department level meetings, an all hands meeting ensures everyone receives the same information and messages. ASAP. As soon as possible. Bandwidth. Bandwidth refers to the amount of finite time and resources that one can allocate for any particular project. Beef up. Beef up refers to adding weight, strength, or power to something, especially to an idea. Best practices. Best practices refers to a set of guidelines, ethics, or ideas that represent the most efficient or prudent course of action in a given business situation. Best practices may be established by authorities such as regulators or governing bodies, and they may be internally decreed by a company's management team. Buzzworthy. Buzzworthy refers to something that is new and interesting in a way that attracts or deserves widespread talk or attention. Change agent. A change agent is a person from inside or outside an organization who helps an organization or part of an organization to transform how it operates. A change agent will promote, champion, enable, and support changes that need to be made in an organization. Core competency. Core competencies are the resources and capabilities that comprise the strategic advantages of a business. Cross-training. Cross-training involves teaching an employee who was hired to perform one job function the skills required to perform another job functions as well. Culture fit refers to an employee's beliefs and behaviors when they are in alignment with their employer's core values and company culture. Cutting edge. Cutting edge is an adjective used to describe the newest, most advanced version of a product or service. Deep dive. When a business has a problem, a deep dive may be conducted to investigate the issue and to mitigate its negative effects in an efficient and a most cost-effective manner. Deep diving allows the business to be more sure of their solution so that they can operate in the most risk-averse way possible. Deliverable. A deliverable is a tangible or intangible goods or service produced by a result of a project that is intended to be delivered to a customer, either external or internal. A deliverable could be a report, a document, a software product, a server upgrade, or any other building block of an overall project. Disruptive. In business theory, a disruptive innovation is an innovation that creates a new market and value network and eventually disrupts an existing market and value network, displacing established market-leading firms, products, and alliances. Drill down. Drill down is a capability that takes the user from a more general view of the data to a more specific one at the click of a mouse. End of week. End of week refers to setting a deadline for a deliverable at the end of any particular week. Firefighting. The time and effort that someone uses to deal with problems within a company or organization that need attention immediately instead of dealing with its ordinary business. Food chain refers to the hierarchical order of reporting in a corporate environment. Game changer. A game changer can refer to a person who is a visionary or a company that alters its business strategy and conceives an entirely new business plan. Get on board refers to joining or participating in a new team or project. Going forward. Going forward means from this point on, typically used to indicate a change in previous behavior or action. Growth hacking. The goal of growth hacking strategies is generally to acquire as many users or customers as possible while spending as little as possible. Granular. The level of detail considered in a model or decision-making process. The greater the granularity, the deeper the level of detail. Guesstimate. Guesstimate is defined as an estimate made without using adequate or complete information, or more strongly, as an estimate arrived at by guesswork or conjecture. Hand-holding. Hand-holding refers to the help and advice given to someone when they are doing something for their first time. Hard stop. Hard stop means that they have something scheduled immediately after the meeting that they are currently attending. Ideation. Ideation refers to the process of developing and conveying prescriptive ideas to others, typically in a business setting. It describes the sequence of thoughts from the original concept to implementation. In the loop. In the loop means that a certain group of people deal with important decisions or have specific knowledge of something and need to be included in a decision-making process. If you're in the loop, then you're one of the If you're in the loop, then you're one of this group and are party to a particular knowledge. Key takeaway. A main point or key message to be learned or understood from something experienced or observed. KPI. Key performance indicators. KPIs refer to a set of quantifiable measurements used to gauge a company's overall long-term performance. Paradigm shift. A paradigm shift is when a fundamental and/or monumental change or disruption occurs in current processes, morals, or perceptions. Process improvement. Process improvement involves the business practice of identifying, analyzing, and improving existing business processes to optimize performance, meet best practice standards, or simply improve quality. Raise the bar. To raise standards or expectations, especially by creating something to a higher standard. Reach out. To make an effort to do something for other people. Resource intensive. A process, thread, or a set of related processes or threads that require significant system resources or time or requires exclusive access to large amounts of data. Results oriented. Results oriented is a term used to describe an individual or organization that focuses on outcome rather than processes used to produce a product or deliver a service. Robust. Robust is a characteristic describing a model's, test's, or system's ability to perform effectively while its variables or assumptions are altered. Scalability. Scalability describes a company's ability to grow without being hampered by its structure or available resources when faced with increased production. Seamless. Seamless refers to something that has been executed smoothly and without any awkward transition. Standardize. Standardization is the process by which a company makes its methods, especially its production processes, uniform throughout its organization. Stopgap. A temporary measure or short-term fix that is used until something better can be obtained. Take it to the next level. Taking it to the next level is defined as to making something even better than what it is in the current state. Test the water. Testing the water is a process of finding out whether something is likely to be successful before you actually try to do it. Thought leader. A thought leader is someone who offers guidance and insight to those around them. In other words, a thought leader has a positive reputation for helping others with their knowledge and insight. Touch base. Touch base refers to making contact or reconnect with someone briefly. Transparent. Business transparency is the process of being open, honest, and straightforward about various company operations. Value add. The term value added describes the enhancement that a company gives its products or services before offering it to its customers. Vertical refers to a business niche where vendors serve a specific audience and their set of needs. Our final session is on speaking and presenting during meetings and interviews. Interviews can be intimidating and dreadful, but not if you prepare for it in the best possible way. Let's look at some of the most commonly asked questions in interviews that you can prepare way in advance and answer diligently. Question number 1. Interviewers frequently ask questions like, "Tell me about yourself" or "Tell us about yourself." Open-ended questions like these are asked at the beginning of any in-person or video interviews to get the conversation started. Other examples might include something like, "Walk me through your resume," "Tell me something about yourself that's not on the resume," or maybe something even like, "How would you like to describe yourself?" It's natural to be thrown by these kinds of questions. They're ambiguous and it can be hard to identify what the interviewer really wants to know. But there is an opportunity for you in that ambiguity. Your interviewer is allowing you to choose how to respond. And don't waste this opportunity by simply diving into a long recitation of your resume. Instead, try a concise, enthusiastic response that summarizes your big picture fit for the job. A great answer will address the following. What are your primary selling points for the job? This could be the number of years of experience in a particular industry or area of specialization. You might also want to highlight special training and technical skills here. Focus on the qualifications in the job description and how you meet and exceed that requirement. You can also talk about why you are interested in this position right now. Wrap up your answer by indicating why you are looking for this new challenge and why you feel this role is the next best step. Question number 2. How did you hear about the position? Firstly, answer honestly. They want to know, they're curious about how you came to know about this position. Having said that, don't be too naive in thinking that this information will not be helpful in their decision-making process. They're asking you how you heard about them because they want to hire someone who is being targeted and specific in their job hunt. Employers want to hire someone who knows what they want. They don't want someone who will accept any job they get. They'd rather get someone who is excited for their specific role because they think that person will be more motivated and more energetic if they know what they're looking for. So you need to make sure your answer shows that you have an intent and purpose in the job search and you just didn't stumble into this job randomly along with 1,000 other jobs that you have applied for. In most cases, it's perfectly fine to tell the truth when you're explaining them how you heard about this job. But don't ever say that you're not sure or you don't remember how this happened. Also, do not tell a lie that you can get caught with. Question number 3. What's your biggest strength? By asking you about your strengths, here's what an interviewer is looking for. They want to know if you know your own strengths. They want to know if you're realistic, and they also want to know if your strengths are relevant for the job you have applied for. So to answer correctly, you need to convey the above 3 points in your answer and provide a real-life relevant example of the strength in action. You can claim that you're the most hard-working person in the world and amazing at time management, but without providing an example, you might as well be making the whole thing up. You need to provide proofs of your claim. So when you're considering which strength to mention, think about when was the last time you have used it. What happened? How did you react to that situation? How did your strength help you solve that problem in that specific situation? The more specific your example is, the better it is. Here's a pro tip. It's a good idea to think about your strengths and examples before you go to the interview. So sit down, list out what you think your top 3 strengths are, and come up with a relevant example or even multiple examples. If you're applying for different types of positions, make sure that the strengths you're going to mention are relevant. Let's consider the strengths relevant to an analytical job. If you're applying for a position as an analyst, software developer, database analyst, or something in between, consider the following strengths: critical thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving, detail oriented, logical thinking, examples like this. But you should also be able to back these examples with some kind of situation you have faced in the past and you have been able to resolve the issues you have faced back then. Question number 4. What are your weaknesses? Now this is a question that can be a little hard to answer, especially when you expect to discuss your skills, talents and capabilities that make you the strongest candidate for this job. Framing your weaknesses positively can be a little challenging, but when you know how to combine self-awareness with an action plan, you can quickly stand apart from the other job applicants. You don't want to respond, "I tend to work too hard," or "I'm too much of a perfectionist." Undoubtedly, these answers will come across as both insincere and lacking true self-awareness. Alternatively, you also don't want to respond with an actual weakness that will prevent you from succeeding in that role. For instance, if you're applying to be a project manager, you don't want to admit, "I'm not very good at time management." Ultimately, you want to use this question to demonstrate how you have used a weakness as motivation to learn a new skill or grow professionally. Everyone has weaknesses. Your interviewer doesn't expect you to be perfect. However, it is critical you avoid mentioning weaknesses that will prevent you from performing well in that role. For instance, if you're applying for a data analyst role, you don't want to say, "I'm not very good at math and struggle with numbers." However, if you're applying to a copywriting position with little necessity for math skill, you might admit it, stating that you're not so good with numbers, and while you're aware that it is not directly tied to the role, you still want to track the performance of your campaigns and you're perhaps taking a data analytics course to help you succeed in that direction. Question number 5. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now this can feel like a bit of a trick question because sometimes the answer is not in this job or not in your job or something like at a bigger, better opportunity somewhere else. But none of those things are actually what a hiring manager wants to hear. The good news is you can be honest while still telling them what they really want to know. Do you have realistic expectations from your career? Are you ambitious? And does this particular position align with your overall growth and goals? Think about where this position could realistically take you and think about how this aligns with some of your broader professional goals. What if this position is not a one-way ticket to your professional aspirations? In such situations, it is okay to say you don't really know what the future holds, but you should also mention that you see this experience as an opportunity that will help you make that decision. Employers will be listening for your sense of ambition during this answer. While it can be difficult to know or even plan what you will do in the next 5 years, employers want to hire candidates who have a clear sense of how they want to grow and progress. Now coming to the last 2 questions. Why do you want to work with us? And why should we hire you? These 2 questions are pretty tied to each other, and answering this correctly will make all the difference. Businesses wants to hire someone who believes strongly in the company's mission and wants to make a positive impact on the organization and its clients or customers. Also, searching for a candidate who is a strong fit for the position and the company can be a costly and time-consuming process. So, hiring managers want to help their employer realize a good return on their investment. Understand and consider how you can contribute to the growth of the company and answer this question with that contribution in mind. How can you help the company succeed? Read up on what's happening with the company and its industry. Has it recently changed its products or service offerings? What competitive pressure is it facing? Consider this landscape and think, what knowledge and experience do I have that would be especially useful to this employer right now? That being said, there are things that you should not be saying while answering to this question. Something like, I see this as a stepping stone to something bigger and better. No employer expects workers to stay in any organization for a very long time. But a response like this will imply that you are more focused on the future than the now. It also suggests that you already have one foot out of the door before you have even been hired. Now coming to the next part of our module, presenting your best self at interviews. What should you wear? Generally, a job interview calls for you to wear something professional, a business attire. However, it also depends on the company culture, so read up about the hiring company. Don't wear something that you will not be comfortable in or something that you usually don't wear. Remember, interviews can go on for a couple of long hours, so you don't want to wear something that you will not be comfortable in. How should you greet? Greet your interviewer with a firm handshake and introduce yourself. Be prepared for a little small talk, but don't overdo it. Follow the interviewer's lead and let them guide the direction of the conversation. How you should sit. Sit up straight and plant your feet firmly on the floor during an interview. You may think that a relaxed pose will show your confidence, but it shows instead a lack of respect or interest. If you put your arms and hands on the table, then gently lean over to convey that you're interested in the conversations of your partners. This way, you emphasize that you're listening attentively. How should you conduct yourself during an interview? Be confident and most importantly, be yourself. Focus on your achievements and accomplishments so that your interviewer knows what you're bringing to the table. Take the water. If you're provided with the option of a cup of coffee or water, always accept the offer, even if you're not thirsty. The simple act of accepting this offer will make you seem more approachable and likable. And lastly, never leave without a smile. Now let's get down to preparing for meetings. How do we prepare for meetings? You should always start by setting your agenda. Clearly define your meeting objective. Next, you should check for the calendar availability. Browse through your team's calendar and book them in advance. Book a room. Book a meeting room, especially required if you need to have a confidential meeting. Share resources with peers if required. Mail the reports and data that your team needs to look into before coming for the meeting. Write down your points. It always helps to create a list of agendas that need to be addressed during the meeting. Preparing presentations. Create PPTs which can help you elaborate on any subject and keep them clean and minimal to not take the focus away from your speech. What are the best practices during meetings? Keep it short. An effective meeting is one in which time has been optimized. Stick to the agenda. Discuss all the topics that are related to the agenda you have set for the meeting. Be open to hearing from others. Be attentive to what others have to suggest. Be prepared with reports and data that would be beneficial for the entire team to be more attentive and present in the meeting. Don't be aggressive. Use a very polite and formal tone during your meetings. Take down MOMs or minutes of the meeting. All the meetings need to be properly documented. The best way to do it is by taking down a list of things that has been discussed in the meeting and sharing it with the entire team. When communication is effective, it leaves all parties involved satisfied and feeling accomplished. By delivering messages clearly, there is no room for misunderstanding or alteration of messages, which in turn decreases the potential for conflict. I hope that this course has helped you grasp the basic elements of professional communication, and it will further help you in powering ahead in your career. Thank you and all the best.